Okay, just very quickly. So our presentation is going to be a follow-up on our readings of Reciprocal Landscapes, which is all about how materials taken from one place, from a landscape, are not necessarily being mindfully used within the city, right? We don't think of the impacts upon the landscape when we say we would like to, use quartz, or we want to use granite, or we want to use trees. All these materials are resources from landscapes that are taken and dislocated then into our cityscape, leaving barren lands elsewhere.
Great.
Can you open that?
Yeah, I can. That's fine.
Okay.
So, today we'll be talking about a variety of materials, ranging from topsoil all the way to bricks. So, what is topsoil? Topsoil is a natural element traded on a global scale. It has a very heavily machined manufacturing process to end up and get to our beautiful products. So, topsoil is the uppermost layer of soil, usually up to 5 to 10 inches in depth. It's mainly composed of horse manure, human waste, and nutrients that have been compiling over many years. So, topsoil is topsoil is spread over existing soil to improve texture and enhance its ability to support plant life. And in order to maintain it, we spread guano over it. Guano is also the accumulated excrements of seabirds and bats. So, also, most of the topsoil used in London is produced mostly in the UK, notably in Bristol, Newark, and Liverpool.
Like topsoil, trees are another natural resources traded on a global scale. Globally, nurseries produce billions of trees yearly, supplying our streets, parks, and gardens, where the UK alone produced 160 million trees in the past year. London's estimated 8.4 million trees is the product of countless nurseries in hundreds of years. And keeping the explanation for how it is done short, most nurseries use seeds and propagation, though some trees are grown through grafting. Nurseries use either bare root or containerized production, and trees are often grown for a single seasonal cycle, though that can be longer. If field grown, these are collected while dormant in the winter. Before packaging and sale, all nurseries grade their plants to screen unhealthy stock. The UK is a net importer, so while the process and result is of benefit to the climate crisis, this importation creates unnecessary carbon emissions. Further, it stands to reason that stock grown in the UK will be most suitable for this environment and climate. Finally, importation poses the risk of pests, diseases, and invasive species being brought into the UK. Importation does have the benefit of easing diversification needs, as nurseries can only produce so many species. Significantly, importation also introduces particularly resilient or beneficial trees and breeds.
Okay, so I'd like to briefly introduce two projects who took the trees very seriously and acts as air purifier in the city, two major cities, London and New York. So firstly, Barbican Centre is a very famous project. There are 2,000 trees which creates its own microclimate condition. The canopy of the trees and evapotranspiration lowers the temperature of the surrounding area by 3 to 5 degrees. Moreover, the trees in Barbican sequesters approximately 6,000 to 10,000 kg of CO2 annually. And also, additionally, the Barbican forest is home for birds, insects, and other wildlife as well. The three main species in Barbican Centre was London pine, silver birch, and holly tree. So they removes around 1 to 2 grams of particulate matter and around 20 kg of CO2. And the next project is the High Line in New York. It's a renovation project of a railway So they also have a 400 trees of 20 different species, and its canopy also and evapotranspiration lowers 2 to 5 degrees down, and contributes to reduction in a heat island effect, urban heat island effect. Also, the air quality, industrial air quality, 8,700 kg of CO2 is removed by the Highline project. So they actually act as a air purifier in the middle of the city. These are two main species, red oak and horny locust. Around 2 grams of particulate matter and maximum 23 kg of carbon dioxide is removed by the air purifier in the city. That's it.
Hello, me and Rengem. We're going to be talking about granite, a symbol of strength and prestige, has shaped our landscapes and our history, especially here in the British Isles. From the slow cooling of magma deep within the earth, granite's durability and natural beauty have made it a favorite for iconic buildings and public spaces. Extraction techniques range from cost-effective blasting to precise stone cutting, producing raw blocks that are then cut, polished, and refined. Finishes such as polished, honed, and bush-hammered give granite its timeless appeal, whether for the interior or the outside places.
I'm going to be talking about granite in the UK first. Granite became popular during the Victorian era for constructing grand commercial buildings like banks and offices, quarried throughout the British Isles, often from coastal locations. It was transported by sea to major cities. By the 19th century, the UK was a major granite producer, exporting stone to Europe, America, and Australia. Granite quarrying in Britain began expanding in the late 1700s with major quarries in areas like Aberdeenshire, southwest Scotland, Devon, Cornwall, and Cumbria, and many smaller quarries serving local needs. A study on stone production in the UK found that granite has a carbon footprint of 107 kg CO2e per ton, which is higher than sandstone. For imported stone, emissions are even higher due to transportation. If we look at it from a global scale, the Mount Rushmore sculpture of 4 US presidents in South Dakota was carved from granite, and the New England region is well known for its granite supply. Granite from India, China, Brazil, and Africa is also widely available in the UK, with India standing out as a top global producer and exporter. And then we have some examples here of granite architecture.
Thank you.
So hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about bricks. Let's start with the making process. It begins with clay extraction, usually through open mine pits in mining. The clay is processed, shaped into molds, and dried. Once dried, it's fired with high temperatures, making the brick strong and durable. So, as we can see from the mining process to the drying process and to delivery process as it proceeds. So, in the UK, there are certain main suppliers such as the Wienerberger, IB Stock, and Michael Mersch, which provides a variety of bricks from traditional to sustainable options, which prices typically ranging from 300, 600 per 500 bricks, depending on the type and quality. However, the brick has a significant environmental impact, which the brick emits about 200 grams of CO2 during manufacturing. We can compare this with brick and isolation materials. For example, for concrete, it's mainly 200 grams of CO2 is processed while manufacturing, and it is the opposite for the isolation materials, which it's mainly in mines. So there are sustainable alternatives such as cork blocks made from leftover wine corks. Cork blocks are lightweight, recyclable, and can be looked together without glue or mortar, providing an eco-friendly choice for construction. So, whether we're talking about traditional clay and molding cork, these materials shape our buildings and impact our carbon footprint, offering us a sustainable path for our building materials used in urban areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm curious as to, you've gained all this new knowledge, but what are you going to do with it? What does it inform you? You mentioned something about that it leaves some impact on the land it was extracted from. And what happens to cork trees when you peel their bark off? Is this an area you're going to explore?
So I think as a primary, the primary idea in looking at materials is that we focus a lot on carbon footprint when looking and picking materials, but oftentimes what we're not considering in that process is that any material that's being brand new made will have an impact. You're still taking away from a landscape, you're still taking resource from somewhere. It's a way more viable option to use recycled materials. Materials that have already been processed at some stage are a way better option, whether or not the material will leave a low carbon footprint or even take carbon from the atmosphere. Doesn't exactly matter when you're still taking up space and resources in growth and production.
It doesn't matter.
You know?
Yeah, thank you. I share Mike's curiosity as to what you're going to do, and just listening to your answer there, I just want to talk very briefly about who's now an older woman. Her name's Lottie Glob. She's a potter, and her father was the Professor Glob, can't remember his first name, but he was the Danish professor who first discovered bog bodies in Denmark. So these ancient preserved peoples that were preserved by the acidic conditions in the bogs. And her philosophy was that her dad spent all his time taking things out of the ground, that she, as a potter, would spend her time putting things back in the ground. So her work is really very interesting. It is worth a look just for a different philosophy than recycling, let's say, that actually her ceramics are put into the ground, put into the landscape as a way of giving back to the practices, the people, the cultures that her father had learned from. So she wanted to kind of complete that cycle. And in some ways, I think, rather than a knee-jerk reaction, I think you've got the right idea. I just think you need to spend a little bit of time with what the alternatives are. So, for example, there are bricks now, which I'm sure you know about, where instead of kilning, you can use microbially induced calcite precipitation. So in other words, you wee on the bricks, you add a bit of calcium, and they harden like sandstone. But you can't use them for structural purposes, nor can you use cork as a structural material. But there are some complex layers here that I would really love to see where you end up. Whether it is for everything that you. So it's not to say that you can't take something out of the ground, but maybe you put something back in its place, and you think very carefully about what that giving back means. I'm fascinated, and looking forward to see how the work develops.